So who saw this video coming? Besides everyone! After a few weeks of testing my Buddyfight deck, I am ready to share it with my viewers. After about the first week of playtesting, I did a search on YouTube to see if anybody else had put up any really good Danger World profiles. And much to my surprise, there really aren't a whole lot out there. There especially aren't many variations. Since my deck takes a slightly different path than the normal Danger World beatdown deck, I want to talk about it a little bit. Even if you're not playing Danger World, or you don't like my build, or any of the other reasons you might not like this deck, you might learn something from this video. At the time of recording, the deck I'm using is 23-7. Mathematically, this means I win over 3 times more often than I lose. I'm not throwing these numbers up to say that I'm super amazing or anything, but knowing that the deck can in fact stand on its own gives me and the deck both some validity. I'm not just some newbie that decided to throw his deck profile up. I do know a little bit about what I'm talking about. When looking for a starting place to building the deck, I first wanted to begin with who I wanted as my buddy. In the end, I ended up choosing Armor Knight Medusa because she's my favorite card. Not only is Penetrate incredibly useful right now, but she's also adorable. Look at that smile. Anyways, the main problem with a deck completely centered around Penetrate is your opponent can easily counter it by just not playing anything in the center. Knowing this, I built a deck around making my opponent feel like they need to be on the defensive. So the idea of the deck, and the reason it has the name Survival of the Fittest, is it's all about seeing what your opponent's planning on doing, definging their biggest plan, and then making them go on the defensive. Once they're on the defensive, you keep them there until they crack under the pressure. GG. I definitely wouldn't call this the optimized Danger World build. I could do a lot of things to make this deck more competitive, but it would go against the initial idea I had. The deck itself isn't meant to be the most competitive Danger World deck out there, it's just meant to make my little Medusa as deadly and devious as possible. For those of you that are impatient and just want to see the deck, here it is, I'll put it up on the screen. And if you're just here to net deck a deck, then here it is, please enjoy. All I ask is that you leave me a like on the way out. For the rest of you who can't get enough of my lovely intoxicating voice, we're going to get into some theory crafting before we actually get to the deck. I've developed 3 main theories when it comes to buddy fighting. The first is my best 2 out of 3 rule, and if you want to know more about that, then you can go to my buddy fight tutorial video. To sum it up briefly, I believe there are 3 main objectives during your turn in Buddy Fight. The first is to clear your opponent's field of monsters, the second is to deal some damage to your opponent, and the third is to have a monster set up in your center to defend against damage. And I believe the most effective turns will be ones that set up at least 2 out of 3 of these objectives. The second theory is that just like Vanguard, Buddy Fight uses a series of magic numbers. They're not quite as complicated as Vanguard, though, as I only see 3 magic numbers in the world of Buddy Fight. The numbers 5,000, 6,000, and 8,000 are the numbers that matter most in this current metagame. This is a generalized theory, so don't post in the comments about how you believe the number 4,000 should be the superior number or so on and so forth, yada yada. Much like all of my other theories, this theory is not going to be true 100% of the time, but it's a nice thing to go by. 5,000 matters because it's the power that a lot of main powerhouses have. It's the most power we've seen a size 1 have, and it also takes shots at a lot of common threats, including your Medusas, your Drums, and your Cerberus. 6,000 is as defensive as the size ones we've seen have gotten. Having 6,000 defense means you've successfully walled out every single one of the size ones in the game so far. Unless, of course, they want to use up a link attack or have some kind of external effect that either gives them power or destroys your monster with 6,000 defense. Otherwise, they have to use a size 2 or higher monster to get rid of you. And finally, 8,000 matters because it is currently the highest any monster has in its defense. Meaning it's a little unnecessary to put so much power in your deck that you're always hitting more than 8,000 because 8,000 is the highest you're ever going to need in one attack. My third theory is incredibly simple. Because of charge and draw, every tech card is viable. There's not much more to add on to this because it's pretty self-explanatory. Since you can charge all of the tech cards you know you're not going to use, every tech card can be used. That's about 5 minutes of faffing about. Let's go ahead and begin the profile. Being a Danger World player means I'm lucky enough to have access to the first batch of size 0s. In all honesty, I don't know why Danger World would run any less than 4 of Eagle. Even if you have a full field of 3, Eagle gives you so much stuff for free it's not even funny. He can be a free shield. He can be a free attack on like 1,000 rapier or something annoying like that. A free sacrifice to Cerberus or Demon. Or one extra free critical. Being a size 0 also makes him incredibly unpredictable. You could have a size 2 to your right and a size 1 to your left. You drop this in the center, and now Cerberus can pop a monster, or you can link attack with one of your other monsters already on the field, or you can get a free attack on something that has very weak defense. You deal one more critical. There are just so many things that open up with this being a size 0. Despite all of that, I'd actually say it's pretty well balanced. It's only got 4,000 attack, so it doesn't hit a lot of really common threats like Drum and Cerberus. It's also almost guaranteed to die on your opponent's turn. The size 1 lineup I use is incredibly specific. Each monster is optimized to fit one particular role. Kind of like having a tool set. Vulcan has 5k power and 2 crit, which makes him a really good offensive unit. He's a slightly weaker version of Armor Knight Ogre, but I feel like his effect more than makes up for it. I've never been in a match where it seemed like it would matter that this card had 3,000 defense, but I have been in matches where I have used Beast Aura to increase my life. Anything that gets you a little bit farther from Gargantua Punisher, am I right, guys? He destroys a monster or hits for 2. Having a monster that can attack for 3 critical is incredibly important, I feel, right now. Having this with anything except for pretty much Hound means that I can swing for 5 life, which is half of their life total. If I have 2 of these, a Boulder Piercing Spear, and Drill Bunker, then I have an OTK. It doesn't seem like it when you first look at the game, but having that one extra critical really does change the game a lot. It also creates a priority target that your opponent has to deal with on their turn. Hound is an exceptionally versatile card. Obviously, with its 6,000 defense, it's there to wall against a lot of common threats. It walls out Drum, Cerberus, Medusa, 1,000 Rapier, just a bunch of stuff. Normally you have to sacrifice having good power for a good defense, but because this card has such a low critical, they gave it 5,000 power anyway. So not only can it wall against a lot of common threats, it can take them out too. The fact that this doesn't just have to be a shield and can take out a pretty serious threat makes it a really good card. Our size 2s aren't quite as specialized as they're all about applying pressure, but they do apply different kinds of pressure. There's not much more I can say about Medusa, really. There are some players like me who are drawn to her extreme potential, but there are some players who don't like her at all, which is completely understandable because of how situational she is. For people who don't really know her main uses, I'll go over it really briefly. If you link attack with this and Hysteric Spear and they have something in the center, you're going to be guaranteed 4 damage. I say guaranteed because Dragon World players can't use any shields, Danger World players can't use Aura, and it's a link attack so Magic World players can't use Solomon. Even if you can't use her for her Penetrate, you can still hit something with 5,000, which is a good number, or you can hit them directly for 2. See, one thing I love about having Medusa as my buddy is it puts my opponent in a mindset. My opponent sees Armor Knight Medusa and thinks, oh man, I can't play anything in the center this game. I gotta keep that center open. Psh, ain't no way I'm letting this Penetrate player penetrate me. Since I know that's what they're thinking, I'm already one step ahead of them. I guess that's why I don't really care about giving away my plan by using her as my buddy. Do I really need to sit here and explain why Cerberus is a good card? Like 95% of you are using Cerberus. Don't you look me in the eye and tell me that you built a Danger World deck that doesn't have Cerberus in it. Get out of my face. All jokes aside, Cerberus is a really good card. This card has won me so many games, I can't even begin to count the ways. Full Fire being repeatable is incredibly broken. Also, the fact that you can have a full field and then still drop Armor Knight Eagle, eat it, and then blow something up is just so fantastic, especially if you have a weapon equipped. This card is mainly for when Penetrate just isn't going to cut it and I need to get to the center. Or if my opponent has played something incredibly irritating to one of the sides and I just need to get rid of it quickly without wasting too many resources. Trading a size 0 or a size 1 for a size 2 or 3, definitely 100% worth it all day, every day. It does hit for 5k, which is great, but it's only got 5k defense, which makes it really vulnerable to pretty much every size in the game. If you really needed to, you could just load up like 8 cards in this card's soul and have it live forever, though we all know that that's not its true purpose. The fact that you can, however, is amazing. Griffin is an amazing card and honestly doesn't get enough credit. The problem is, though, and the reason I only run it at 2 instead of a higher number is it's also a very timing specific card. I really don't know if I'd ever want to see more than one of these in a duel. Offensively, though, this thing hits like a truck. The fact that you can choose between it hitting something for 7k or having it deal 3 critical, just so good. It's so good. It's so good. Okay, you want to talk about applying some pressure? That is some pressure. Its main problem, though, is how fragile it is. If you play it at the wrong time and this thing just dies without actually doing anything, then it's a waste of a really good card. There is some pretty funny tech you can do with it, though. My favorite is having somebody attack it and then playing Battle Spirit Unite to increase its defense and counterattack it and kill it. That's hilarious. And finally, we bring out the big guns, the size 3. I use Armor Knight Demon because it's the only size 3 you need in Danger World. Okay, get that Black Drake out of my face. Black Drake's got 4 critical, huh? Yeah? Yeah? Can it hit for 6, though? Oh, it can't? Can it destroy 2 monsters? Oh, it can't? It can't? Can I destroy the center and then attack them directly for 3? Oh, no, no. Can Black Drake's attack still be stopped by only 1 Nullify attack card? Oh, it can? Yeah, yeah. Go ahead and get out of my face then. I'ma stick to my demon. This card, by itself, is a win condition. A -1 and 2 gauge is a small price to pay for a win condition. Some people are running this at like 2 or 1, and I think those people are really silly. I want to see one of these guys in my opening hand, and you don't have a lot of turns in Buddyfight. I want to be able to play one of these during the duel at some point. Heck, I've had a match where I played all 3 of them in the same match and won. This card is just an absolute nightmare. Spells are definitely the heaviest part of my deck, so they'll take the longest to go over. I feel like in Danger World especially, you can run a bunch of spells, because once your monster lineup is set in, then that's just it. Your monster line is set, and all the other monsters in your hand are going to be dead until your current monsters are destroyed. There's literally not a single reason you should run any less than 4 Battle Aura Circle. Not one reason. Your center's so rarely going to have a monster in it anyway, and even if it does, your opponent is going to find a way to destroy it. They're going to destroy it with a link attack or something, and then they're going to attack you directly, in which case this card, once again, becomes viable. Also, if your opponent tries to do something silly, like if you have an Armor Knight Demon to your right, and they link attack it, no, I don't think that's going to happen. Stop that link attack, you're being foolish. Battle Spirit Unite is my favorite spell in all of Buddyfight. It's just so ridiculously good in a Danger World deck. And you know what the craziest thing is? I've seen Danger World players that aren't even running this card. Are you insane? Are you allergic to winning? And come on, honestly, the argument against using this card is really silly. Oh, it's reliant on you having a weapon equipped. Newsflash, gentlemen. Almost all of Danger World is about you having a weapon equipped. Winning with a Danger World deck is pretty much 90% about having a weapon equipped. That's not a problem with the card, it just means you have to build around it. Your opponent attacks into a monster and you go, surprise, not only is that monster not going to die, but your monster is about to die. Play this on Demon and watch them cry. Play it on Griffin and watch them lose. And that's not enough awesome for you? Then how about this? You can play this during your turn to turn one of your normally not that great monsters into an absolute monster. All of a sudden, Valken has 10,000 attack. Heck, even just having 8,000 attack makes him strong enough to take out anything in the game. The point I'm trying to make is, I really like this card, and I'm running it at 3. The reason it's only at 3 and not at 4 is you really only need to do it one time to put your opponent in their place and completely jack over their plans. I play Invigorating Breath like every other Danger World player on the planet. One big difference between me and a lot of other players is a lot of players are only running it at 2. And they're running it 2 because, get this, they don't want to cast it 3 times because the 3rd time only gives you 2 life. You really think you're going to be casting this all 3 times if you run 3 of these in your deck? You think putting 3 of this in your deck means every match you're going to have to cast it 3 times. Let's face facts here, duelists. You're not going to see this all 3 times by putting 3 in your deck. Heck, you got a better chance of the Beatles getting back together with John Lennon, and that ain't gonna happen because John Lennon is dead. Having 3 of them in my deck almost guarantees that I'm gonna get it at least once, which almost always happens, and highly increases the chances of me pulling it off twice, which is incredible. I'm actually the only player I know that's running Guillotine. It's a little strange. I don't know why people are so afraid of using this card. For one thing, it completely obliterates the mirror match. As soon as your opponent plays a Hysteric Spear or a Boulder Spear and attack into you, then you can just destroy their weapon. Since they were probably planning around that weapon, you've derailed a lot of their plans. Also, one thing that people really overlook when they look at this card is there's nothing on Drill Bunker that says you can't destroy their weapon in the middle of their attack. Your opponent plays Boulder Piercing Spear. At the end of the turn, they play Drill Bunker. They attack into you, you destroy their weapon by paying 1 gauge. You then proceed to laugh, play rock, paper, scissors with them, and if you happen to win, then you deal damage to them equal to your weapon's critical if you have a weapon. The thing that's great is the second half of this card is completely unnecessary. It's just a bonus. This card could easily just be pay 1 gauge, destroy your opponent's weapon when they attack you with it. Boom, good card. It also shuts up players who play Drago Brave. Bet you feel silly for discarding that card now, don't ya? If you really don't need it, then just charge it. I do tech in 1 Thunder Devastation because I do feel like it is kind of useful sometimes. Like if your opponent is doing one of those setups where they're playing Danger World, for example, and they have all 3 of their monster slots filled, like their size 0 Eagle in the center, and then Cerberus or something to the right, and then a size 1 to the left, then you can just pay 2, get rid of 1 card, and completely sweep their field. You'd also be shocked how good of a counter this is to decks that use a lot of Soul Guard. You can even, use this, pay the 2 gauge, and clear your opponent's center without using up a single attack, and then attack for game. There's just a lot of different things you can use it for, but it's just not useful enough to use it more than 1. I guess it's easier to say that I run this at 1 because I'm really not that sad if I never see it in a duel. But if I do see it, then it could prove to be a very effective card. My item lineup is about what you would expect. We use Hysteric Spear because ideally it's the weapon you want to have equipped. There's no reason a deck like this should ever run less than 4. 2 gauge is surprisingly really cheap for a good card like this. Penetrate Link attacks just set up so many plays, and if they're not going to play anything in the center, then whatever, just attack them directly. Also, harping back on this, it has 5k power, so it hits a lot of very common threats. We only use 2 Boulder Piercing Spear, which is a little bit light. Believe me, I would love to run that 3rd Boulder Piercing Spear, I just can't find room for it. Also, believe it or not, running only 6 equips, I get an equip pretty much every match. And if I can't get a weapon, then I really don't have a problem just playing with what's in my hand. In fact, there are some matches where my weapons have just gone crazy. I've gotten like 4 of them. So I guess I just don't really feel that pressure to find room for that 3rd spear. Finally, we run 3 of our impact card, Drill Bunker. I really don't think I'd ever run 4 of this card. It is a pretty good card and it is a win condition, but it's just not useful often enough. I normally have no problem just winning with what I have on the field, but this is a pretty good unexpected surprise sometimes. The Penetrate very rarely comes in handy because once they see my Medusa and the rest of my deck, they expect Penetrate, so they don't play anything in the center, but the +2 critical definitely won me some games. I would even consider putting this down to 2 to put something else in if I really needed to, but I'm feeling pretty confident with 3. I know some of you are probably itching to give me some card suggestions because you think I didn't see a specific card, so I'm going to go over some honorable mentions. These are cards that I saw and almost went in the deck, but I didn't put in for one reason or another. No, I'm not using Lord or a Meditation, nor do I plan to. People look at the +2 gauge and they think, oh man, only 1 card for 2 in the gauge? That's like +1ing. Here's my problem with getting +2 in your gauge. If you can't figure out a way to spend that gauge, then you're pretty much -1ing for no reason. Every time I see somebody use this in a duel, they always end the game with more than 2 in their gauge. Which means if they had never played this card, it wouldn't have affected the game at all, and it could have just been a better card that could have actually done something for them. I'll say it again, getting 2 gauge is pointless if your deck doesn't have a way to spend it. Armor Reuse is a pretty good card, it just doesn't give you any immediate advantages. Playing it pretty much lets you trade it out with any Armor Knight in your discard pile, which is great, but at the same time, it doesn't really give you a +1 or anything interesting like that. It is a really good toolbox card, and I could find uses for it in my deck. I just really don't have the room for something like this that doesn't really give some kind of immediate advantage. The difference between drawing this and just drawing a useful Armor Knight is pretty insubstantial. Believe it or not, I've argued with myself hardcore about putting in Succubus. I've thought maybe about cutting Hound and putting in Succubus instead, or maybe cutting a couple of Hounds and putting some Succubus instead. I've put a lot of thought into it, and honestly, there's a bunch of different arguments on both sides. I would love to use this card. I just have to ask myself at the end of the day, does Hound do it better? See, the thing about this card is it does eat 2 attacks, and it is very, very annoying, but at the same time, Hound can take an attack from any level 1 and have to be attacked with a level 2, most of the time causing a link attack, which is also wasting 2 attacks. Also, offensively, Succubus can't do anything on her own, and I don't really like that. She's not really as versatile. I just don't know. The argument against that, again, is she can take an attack from a size 2 or a size 3 just fine one time and still live, and just, I don't know. In the end, I went with Hounds because he's got more power and a few more uses, but I could still end up putting a few of these in. I ain't gonna lie, Demon Godal is an amazing card, and I would obviously love to use him. He's just way too good. Counterattack, and Soul Guard, and you get to put 2 in the Soul. That is crazy. He just doesn't serve the purpose I need to make my deck work. He's really good against super offensive decks, but the thing is, I'm the offensive deck. I don't want to go on the defensive and let them be on the offensive. The entire point of this deck is to just shower them with so much pain that they can't stand the pressure anymore. So this card is really good. I'd love to put it in. I was thinking of maybe putting this in instead of Cerberus. It's just too slow a card for the deck. I'm going to address this right now. I know a lot of my viewers are going to be like, oh, ho, ho. Little does Kudou know that there is a weapon better than the boulder-piercing spear. If only Kudou had looked in the generic weapons and found the Burning Sword, which has more power and you only have to pay 1 gauge for it. No, guys. Just no. I know about Burning Sword. I don't like it. Kudou, but why? It has 1,000 more power than the Boulder Piercer. Here's the thing. What's the difference between having the 4,000 power and the 3,000 power? Pretty much all of the monsters I play have 5,000 power. If I need to link attack, I'll just link attack with Boulder Piercing and go up to 8,000, which destroys everything. I'm not just going to singularly attack with this because very, very few threats in the game need exactly 4,000 power to defeat. The 3,000 does me just fine. And if they're going to use something to power up their monster and get over 8,000, then it's going to be at least a 3,000 boost. Having that 1,000 extra power means nothing. And even if you can find some uses for it, what about all of those times where I'm forced to pay the 1 gauge for no reason when the Boulder Piercing Spear would have been just fine? I'm sorry, people, but there's just no reason to use Burning Sword over Boulder Piercing Spear yet. That's about all I have to say on the deck profile. If you enjoyed this video, it would really help me out if you left me a like. You should also comment telling me what you thought of the deck. If you have any ideas for me, want to challenge me to a match, or just want to tell me what I should do for my next video, then leave it in that comment section below. And finally, subscribe to stay up to date on the latest Kudou news. Until next time, gamers, this is Kudou signing out.